Hello students, in today's class we are going to study film adaptation. So what is film adaptation? A film adaptation is the transfer of a work or story in a whole or in part to a feature film. So what is it? It is the transfer of a work or story in a whole or in part into a feature film. So a common form of film adaptation is the use of a novel as the basis of a feature film. So other works adapted into films include non-fiction, including journalism, autobiography, comic books, scriptures, plays, historical sources, and other films. So from the earliest days of cinema, that is in 19th century Europe, adaptation from such diverse resources has been an ubiquitous practice of filmmaking. My Fair Lady by Bernard Shaw is an adaptation. So adaptation has been defined as the act of producing a work of art by adapting elements from another work of art. And adaptations have been a common phenomenon in the world of cinema from the early years of its origin. So as I said, it is defined as the act of producing a work of art by adapting elements from another work of art. So literary adaptation to film is a long established tradition in cinema, starting with the early cinema adaptations of the Bible. That is the example, the Lumiere brothers' 13-scene production of the life of Jesus Christ. And by the 1910s, adaptations of the established literary canon had become a marketing ploy by which producers and exhibitors could legitimize the cinema going as a venue of taste and thus attract the middle classes of their theatres. So, film adaptation is the transfer of a written work to a feature film. And Susan Hayward points out three types of adaptation. First, the more traditionally connotated notion of adaptation, that is the literary classic. And if you see the second one is the adaptations of plays to screen. First is the adaptation of literary classics into films, and second is adaptations of plays to screen. And finally, the third one is the adaptation of contemporary text. So this is not yet determined as a classic and possibly bound to remain within the canon of popular fiction. And next is, if you say William Shakespeare, he has been called the most popular screenwriter in Hollywood. So not only are the film versions of all Shakespeare plays, but also there are multiple versions of many of them. And Hamlet, this famous tragedy, was adapted 60 times. And Romeo and Juliet, actually it was adapted 42 times, and Julius Caesar 29 times. So there are films adapted from Shakespeare very loosely, such as Kiss Me, Kate and Kalyatam, West Side Story, Othello into Malayalam. And the most obvious and common form of film adaptation is the use of novel as the basis of a film. But film adaptation includes the use of non-fiction. This is what we discussed in the beginning. Even journalism is used in film adaptation. And next is comic book characters. So particularly superheroes have long been adapted into film. You would have watched the movie Superman, which was released in the year 1978, first version, and also the movie Batman, Two earlier successful movie adaptations of famous comic book characters. And the early 2000s blockbusters such as X-Men and Spider-Man have led to dozens of superhero films. See, the adaptation process for comics is different from that of novels. So many successful comic book series last for several decades and have featured several variations of the characters by the time. Films based on such series, they usually try to capture the backstory and spirit of the character instead of adapting a particular storyline. So, occasionally aspects of the characters and their origins are simplified or modernized. So, many films today have been adapted frequently on epics, Greek or Roman mythologies, and the Bible and the Passion of Christ. All is directed by Mel Gibson. And in these cases, if you see, the audiences, they already knew the story well, and so the adaptation will de-emphasize elements of suspense and concentrate instead on detail and phrasing. Sometimes the adaptive process can continue after one adaptation. For example, if you see George Bernard Shaw's play Pygmalion, you would have studied this play, and some of you will be familiar, I do not know. So Bernard Shaw's play Pygmalion was adapted into a British film with the same name. And if you see in the year 1956, the film again Pygmalion was adapted into a stage musical titled My Fair Lady. And this musical was adapted into a film with the same title. So popular films, they have been adapted into both novels and plays. So many movie studios, they commission novelization of their popular titles or sell the rights of their titles to publishing houses. So these novelized films will frequently be written on assignment, it is hack writing, and will sometimes be written by authors who have only an early script as their source. And if you see this movie My Fair Lady musical by Bernard Shaw, My Fair Lady was a momentous hit, setting a record for the longest run of any major musical theatre production in history. And the film actually won 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Actor and Best Director. The film was re-released in 1971 and again in 1994. The film actually depicts a poor flower seller. Her name is Eliza Doolittle. The poor flower seller, Eliza Doolittle, who has a strong Cockney accent. And she was selected by an arrogant phonetics professor, Henry Higgins. So what is the professor's name? What is his name? Henry Higgins. Flower seller, Eliza Doolittle. So Professor Henry Higgins, who believes that the accent and the tone of one's voice determines a person's prospects in society. He transforms Eliza into a high-class society lady in speech, accent and manners. Eliza goes through many forms of speech training, and at last everyone believes that she is actually a princess. Eliza returns to her old life but finds that she no longer fits in, as she is a polite lady now. So this is the story of My Fair Lady. So of all George Bernard Shaw's plays, Pygmalion is one of the most beloved and popularly received one. So the play and film, they both share an almost identical storyline, but the film has an entirely different tone since there is a transformation from drama to musical. So the play and the movie are similar in both, as I said, the characterization and dialogue. The characters in both works are portrayed similarly. So Higgins' phonetic professor is revealed as a pretentious character in both the play and the movie. So other characters are also given particular personal qualities that give them a specific role in the story. And the readers of the play interpret a character's feelings through subtle or obvious hints in dialogues, body language, and line delivery. So the songs in the film act as it's a musical. As I said, My Fair Lady is a musical. So the songs in the movie act as a narrative and make the happenings and developments in the storyline obvious to the audience. The songs in the film narrate Eliza Doolittle's pain in a childish fashion, causing the audience to miss out on its deep layers. So, there is a slight change in the movie. See, in the movie, Eliza falls in love with Higgins and is shown to return to Higgins despite all that happens. But if you see, the play ends with a bitter fight between Higgins and Eliza. Therefore, Eliza returns to Higgins. So the film shows Eliza to be submissive and to return to a man who behaved in a discourteous and disrespectful manner to her. So actually, this is the story of My Fair Lady. And I stop here. Meet you in next class. Thank you.